Hello, I'm Esther Gitu-Ewart. It's Friday, January 14th. This is Africa 54.
The Nobel Committee presses Peace Prize laureate and Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to end the Tigray conflict. Britain's Prince Andrew is stripped of his military links and royal patronages. We'll explain why. And how a Nigerian beauty and fashion designer transformed an insecurity into a thriving business.
In a rare critique, the Norwegian Nobel Committee is weighing in on the conflict in Ethiopia and says Nobel laureate and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has a special responsibility to end the Tigray conflict. David Doyle has more.
The committee that awards the Nobel Peace Prize has appealed to Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to end a war in the northern Tigray region. It's a rare critique of a former laureate, amid a war that has killed thousands and displaced millions since breaking out over a year ago. In the past week, airstrikes killed at least 73 civilians in Tigray, according to aid workers. In a statement on Thursday, Norwegian Nobel Committee Chair Berit Reiss-Andersen said the humanitarian situation is dire and that Abiy, who was given the award in 2019, bears a special responsibility to end the conflict and contribute to making peace. Abiy's spokesperson, Bilene Seyum, said the Prime Minister had taken up this special responsibility and was engaged in putting an end to not only the past year's conflict, but also the destabilizing activities of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. But underscoring the domestic challenges Abiy is facing, pressure was also applied from a different quarter on Thursday. Eskindenega was among several opposition leaders released from prison last week. At a press conference, he said Abiy needs to fulfill his oath. That is, by taking back control of Tigray and uniting the country. We will nag him, he said. We will not leave him alone until he ensures the sovereignty of the country is respected.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. Despite a series of military coups and opposition crackdowns in dozens of countries, there are encouraging signs of democratic uprisings around the world, according to the annual report from Human Rights Watch published Thursday. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
In Myanmar, the military last February ousted the democratically elected government, jailing the president Win Myint and state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi. In Nicaragua, opposition members were jailed on treason charges ahead of the November election as President Daniel Ortega consolidated power. In Uganda, President Yoweri Museveni was re-elected in January 2021 after security forces arrested and beat opposition supporters and journalists, killed protesters and disrupted opposition rallies.
The conventional wisdom these days is that autocrats are in the ascendancy and democratic leaders are in the decline. But when we looked back over the last year, we found that that view was actually too superficialist, too simplistic.
In fact, there are encouraging signs of democratic uprisings, says Roth.
Popular protests for democracy against the autocrat. And we've seen this in a range of countries, in Thailand, Myanmar, Sudan, in Uganda, Nicaragua, Cuba, Poland, many parts of the world. These outpouring of supports for human rights, for democracy, and against autocratic rule.
But across the world, tens of thousands of people who have stood up for democracy and human rights have been jailed, beaten, or killed. In Russia, opposition leader Alexei Navalny is in prison after surviving a nerve agent attack. China has locked up thousands of pro-democracy activists.
to maintain power by force is a very short-term strategy. If you look at Myanmar, where the junta performed a coup almost a year ago, all they have is force. The entire population is against them.
The report says that in countries that still permit reasonably fair elections, opposition politicians and electorates are getting more sophisticated.
The emergence of broad political coalitions, alliances for democracy. And we saw these coalitions oust Prime Minister Babic in the Czech Republic. They got rid of Netanyahu in Israel. They were really behind the coalition that chose Joe Biden to contest Donald Trump. And today in Hungary and in Turkey, Prime Minister Orban and President Erdogan are facing similar broad coalitions that are really putting their grasp on power in jeopardy.
Human Rights Watch says the leaders of democratic countries must end their support for autocratic regimes like Saudi Arabia or Egypt and do a better job of delivering for their own people in the face of huge problems like poverty, the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
The World Health Organization says that after rising for 6 weeks, Africa's fourth pandemic wave, driven by the highly contagious Omicron variant, is flattening, marking the shortest-lived surge to date on the continent, where cumulative cases now exceed 10 million. Meanwhile, the head of South Africa's Medical Research Council says the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine booster shot is 84% effective in protecting against being hospitalized by the Omicron variant for 1 to 2 months after it is received. Glenda Gray presented the Council's findings at a South African Health Ministry briefing on COVID-19's fourth wave. The study involved more than 477,000 healthcare workers, all of them vaccinated with a J&J shot. Roughly half of them had received the J&J booster shot. Among those healthcare workers who had been infected during the fourth wave, the study found that the booster shot reduced hospitalization by 63% in the first 2 weeks after the jab, going up to 84% after that for between 1 and 2 months. Nigerians are reacting with indifference to the government's decision to lift a ban on Twitter. Many people say Africa's largest economy remained connected via virtual private networks or VPN. In announcing the end of the 7-month suspension, the government says the U.S. social media giant agreed to establish a local office, among other conditions set by the West African country. Twitter says it is pleased with its restoration in Nigeria and was deeply committed to the country. The Twitter ban, however, hurt some Nigerian businesses as it drew condemnation for its effects on freedom of expression and the ease of doing business in Africa.
To me, I am really happy about it because I saw it last night, and I must say I was really happy about it. Most of us have been using VPN. It didn't really stop most of us from tweeting, but we're tweeting with fear, you know. But now we can tweet freely and we can air our voice freely. I just feel our voice has been given back to us, apparently, yeah.
On Twitter, some Nigerians say the decision by President Muhammadu Buhari's government had been reached to ease widespread anger about the ban ahead of elections set for 2023.
The way that the country is moving right now, I don't think we are close to ending social media bans because the body language from the government shows that they really want to regulate how much people can say on social media. So we don't really have that freedom of expression per se. So I think if there's another incident like this, it's very likely that our leaders would do that. They're kind of following the template of China, you know, so they're not ready to accept those kinds of views. I don't see them accepting that.
Social media is expected to be an important tool in political campaigning ahead of the national election. The government suspended Twitter on June 4th after it removed a post from Buhari that threatened to punish regional secessionists. Telecoms companies subsequently blocked access to users in Nigeria. In an effort to fight a flood of fake pills in Nigeria, startups are deploying barcodes and apps so that consumers can authenticate their pharmaceuticals. Neka Chile has the details.
At a BioFem facility in Lagos, Chief Executive Femi Mekun shows how you can check these pharmaceuticals are the real deal. Via a barcode on a phone, he can authenticate the drugs. And that's important in Nigeria, where the prevalence of fake medicines is higher than the global average of 10%. In 2009, BioFem had their anti-diabetic prescription drug glucophage counterfeited in the market, causing a decline in revenue.
After the experience we had, and we were able to mitigate that experience using the technology, we decided that all our products was going to have it, so that we do not wait till when it is counterfeited before we protect the patient, which is primary to us.
To fight a flood of fake pills, Nigeria's National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has partnered with startups to create stickers with unique codes. Manufacturers and distributors attach them to boxes and sachets of drugs. Consumers use apps to scan and confirm authenticity. One such app has been developed by Check It Technologies.
When it gets to 5, you win 100 naira instantly.
Founder Daria Adumade says incentives are used to encourage the consumer.
So when the consumer sees the sticker label, has the idea that it's a chance of winning something, that can basically divert them towards authenticating that product. And we've seen that work for us, right? Over 60% of our labels get authenticated in the market.
$4.8 billion worth of fake drugs have been seized by NAFDAC in the past 3 years, says its Director of Investigation and Enforcement, Kingsley Ejiofor. But he said the use of apps is boosting confidence in the pharmaceuticals sector.
So the technology has really helped.
He added that 200 containers of counterfeit medicine are currently at ports, scheduled for destruction, and that the major sources of the fake drugs were China and India.
That was Neka Chile of Reuters reporting. Now to the scandal that is engulfing Britain's Prince Andrew and Buckingham Palace. The palace announced Thursday it was stripping Prince Andrew military's links and royal patronages, and he will no longer be known as His Royal Highness. This action comes as Prince Andrew, the son of Queen Elizabeth, fights a U.S. lawsuit in which he is accused of sex abuse. Andrew, 61, the Duke of York, was forced to step down from public duties in 2019 because of his connections to convicted U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and after a disastrous BBC TV interview which the prince had hoped would clear his name. The royal family's move on Thursday means he will now lose all his royal connections. Meanwhile, a U.S. judge is not dismissing a civil lawsuit in which 38-year-old Virginia Giuffre accuses him of sexually abusing her when she was a teenager. Prince Andrew has steadfastly denied Giuffre's accusations. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, driven by passion for beauty, a Nigerian fashion designer opts to be an entrepreneur rather than take a white-collar job. We'll be right back.
Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated, or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Democratic lawmakers are maneuvering to alter Senate rules to allow for debate on key voting rights legislation that is being blocked by Republicans. The showdown is a culmination of a fierce debate over the democratic process. VOA congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson explains.
A final plea from the President of the United States. Joe Biden on Capitol Hill Thursday, making the case one more time for passage of a major voting rights bill.
As long as I have a breath in me, as long as I'm in the White House, as long as I'm engaged at all, I'm going to be fighting.
After months of failed attempts to pass the legislation in an evenly divided Senate, Biden encouraged Democrats to break the filibuster, a major rules change bypassing Republicans to open up the opportunity for debate.
This is a historic chance to save our democracy, need to protect the fundamental form of American government. And his view is this should absolutely be bipartisan.
But the White House failed to convince Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who is the key Democratic vote needed for that change.
Eliminating the 60-vote threshold will simply guarantee that we lose a critical tool that we need to safeguard our democracy from threats in the years to come. It is clear that the two-party strategies are not working, not for either side, and especially not for the country.
Sinema's argument for compromise puts her in the company of Republicans who argue breaking those Senate rules would be harmful to American democracy and repeatedly have blocked any attempts to debate voting rights.
President Biden and Senate Democrats have been actually shouting at the American people that an evil, racist, anti-voting conspiracy will destroy democracy forever unless Democrats get total one-party control of the entire government starting next week.
But Democrats say this legislation comes at a crucial moment for the United States, as it would expand access to the ballot box for minorities, including African Americans who have faced decades of discrimination and barriers to voting.
If there was ever a power grab, it's what's happening in the state legislatures right now, where Republican legislators are taking away people's sacred right to vote and aiming it particularly at certain groups, people of color, young people, people in urban areas, older people, disabled people.
A variety of polls show many Americans broadly support the ideas in the voting rights legislation, but are divided along partisan lines when it comes to ending the filibuster. Democrats are expected to try and fail to make a rules change this weekend. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
Tunisian soccer fans voiced their anger towards the organizers of the Africa Cup of Nations in Cameroon on Thursday, just one day after Tunisia lost 1-0 to Mali after the referee prematurely halted the match. The Tunisian versus Mali match was stopped when Zambian official Gianni Sikazwe initially blew for the final whistle at 85 minutes as he got his timekeeping wrong. The match in Limbe was restarted, but Sikazwe repeated the error and blew for full time once again before the clock had ticked to 90 minutes. Tunisian officials were furious and officials stormed the pitch in protest. Later, officials decided that 4 additional minutes should be played. Mali came out onto the pitch again 40 minutes after the controversy began, but Tunisia refused to play on, and Sikazwe ended the game for a third time. Painted from head to toe with colors of the Cameroon flag, Gando Piquet danced his way to the Olembe Stadium, followed by his marching band to support the indomitable Lions as they battled Ethiopia Thursday. Despite the strict COVID-19 rules to enter the stadiums during the Africa Cup of Nations and fears that separatist militants might disrupt the competition, the group of supporters following Piquet say that soccer unites the people of Cameroon, so they are not worried. Since the start of the competition, most games have been played in near-empty stadiums, with many fans opting to either stay at home or enjoy the celebrations in parked tan zones which do not require a vaccination certificate or a negative test to enter. Cameroon defeated Ethiopia 4-1 Thursday. NASA scientists are rejoicing at the continued progress of their next-generation space telescope. Plus, the International Space Station gets presidential backing, and a prank from space resurfaces on social media. Let's get more in the Week in Space from VOA's Arash Arabasadi.
NASA celebrated another milestone this week as the James Webb Space Telescope unfolded its 6.5-meter mirror in the final step of the observatory's unpacking.
The size of a mirror allows us to collect more light from fainter objects. And in a lot of cases, that means farther away objects that light took many billions of years to travel to us. A chance to see the universe as it was perhaps only a couple 100 million years after the start, after the Big Bang.
Astronomer Michelle Thaler is referring to the birth of the universe. As with many of Webb's milestones, all testing happened on Earth, so accomplishing objectives in space is a big deal.
I'm emotional about it. What an amazing milestone. We see that beautiful pattern up there in the sky now, almost complete. Of course, it needs to latch, but what an amazing milestone. Just ahead of it, I'm just so amazed and in awe about this team.
The recently opened mirror has 18 gold-coated segments that will need tweaking to focus as one unit in search of stars, galaxies, and even life outside our solar system. Webb should reach its space target in about 2 weeks, and if all stays on schedule, it will begin observations this summer. In other news, NASA recently posted this video to its YouTube channel announcing the Biden-Harris administration's commitment to extend International Space Station operations through 2030. The ISS had been set for decommission in this decade, and NASA says extension enables a seamless transition to one or more commercially owned and operated destinations in low Earth orbit through the late 2020s. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint, the Treasury Department bureau that makes coins, began shipping this week the first in the American Women Quarters program. 20 designs will be issued in the next 4 years honoring women who helped shape the nation's history. The Mint will release the Sally Ride Quarter later this year, honoring the first American woman in space. Finally, a social media video from 2016 resurfaced this week, remembering the time now U.S. Senator and then astronaut Mark Kelly sent a gorilla suit birthday gift to space for his twin brother and fellow astronaut Scott Kelly. Kelly chased his terrified crewmates around the ISS, and you can thank filmmaker Todd Spence for resurrecting the video on Twitter. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
Driven by passion to find a lasting solution to her bad skin, Awaz Gaga Linyaba opted to be an entrepreneur, and she did not just empower herself, but other youths as well, rather than wait for white-collar jobs. VOA's Aisha Mwazu and Grace Oyenubi produced our report.
I used to have a very bad skin growing up, and I knew that I suffered a lot of things. Even my self-confidence was affected at some point. My name is Awaz Gaga Lee Nyagba, popularly called Mrs. Lee. I am a fashion designer and a skincare therapist. I'm a graduate of biological sciences and environmental resource planning. This is my white-collar job. This is my office. If you're making for yourself, you can just try it on before buying it. The drive came when I was on IT. I served in an organization that was paying me very well, but was not related to my field. And I realized I wasn't really happy. I wasn't fulfilled, even though I was getting good monthly allowances. So when I graduated, I saw that I was tending towards fashion design. I decided, let me give it a try. Immediately I finished my master's, and I was just waiting to come back to Abuja. I just knew this was what I wanted to do. I learned for a year, but in 6 months, I did say sewing for people. I'd already known what the name of my design would be. My brand is inspired from lifestyle, from the things that I love, from the things that were challenges to me. By the time you do the right packaging and look for the right kind of people that can afford it, business has started. So we don't have to wait for the government to give us jobs. we can create those jobs. We started business in November, 11th of 11, 2011. It's a spectacular day. And this year, we marked 10 years. We run a fashion academy called Designers Fashion Academy. And we've been training young people for the past 9 years. And it has been very, very impactful. Now our course is 3 months. And in a month, people make 2 to 3 to 4 different attires for themselves. And in 6 months, people have opened their own brands, and they are doing very well. So I have trained more than 150 people, you know, in fashion design. That for me is a lot, because they are also training people, and then the chain, you know, continues. Then in skincare, sometimes we do free online trainings, and then we teach a lot of people just the basics of skincare. And we have trained over 1,000 people online. So I think skincare is like the place where real fashion starts from. We use things that are found in the kitchen: turmeric, carrots, cucumbers, aloe vera. Skincare, organic skincare is really organic. Things you eat on a regular basis. Things that you know that do not have any side effects, you know. So in our local markets around, we source for like 60 to 7% of raw materials, and then a few of them we import them. Our products are homemade, and afterwards we take them to the shop where we display them and sell. The vision is to take it to the next level, where it becomes an industry that people would find sponsors, we find partners that would work with us, and then invest into the business and have young people come and work and be able to make source of livelihoods from there. Just like we have lots of people that have companies like that abroad, our dream is that we would have, you know, this skincare, delicious skincare as a company here in Nigeria.
VOA's Aisha Moazu and Grace Oyanubi produced that report. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.